Nej, jag berättade för Emmy. Så jag ser framför mig att jag tappar greppet och drar med mig kameran i fallet. Och då kommer de här och hickar med också.
Alla hamnar längst
Kolla på knappen där med. Där ute.
Now we have the first forerunner on course here before we start this first run here in the Men's European Cup Slalom in Klaeppen. And just as yesterday, we have Reto Schmidinger at the start with bib number 1. After him, we have Eirik Hystad Solberg from Norway, and then Fabian Ax Svarts from Sweden with bib number 3. Tanguy Neff with bib number 4, and yesterday's winner Edward Hallberg from Finland with bib number 5. And we can see our first forerunner on his way down towards the finish line here in the first run and crossing the finish line. And we would like to thank you so much for this beautiful forerun, and we are ready for our next forerunner before we will start this first run here in Klaeppen. And now we have our second forerunner on course. And the slope here in Klaeppen that we are competing in today is called Lostupet and has a vertical drop of 187 meters. And it starts with a pretty flat part, and then it's a really steep section before they enter these last gates here before the finish line. And now we have the second forerunner in the finish area, and we would like to thank you so much for this forerun. And we have our third forerunner on course, and then we are ready to start this first run. And the results from yesterday, the winner were Edvard Hallberg from Finland. In second place yesterday we had Tonga Inef from Switzerland, and in third Fabian Ax-Svarts from Sweden. Eirik Hystad Solberg from Norway ended up in fourth place, and Theodor Brecken ended up in fifth place. So we will keep an extra eye maybe on these top 5 skiers and see if they will do as good as they did yesterday, even today here in Klaeppen. Forerunner in the finish area, thank you so much for this beautiful forerun. And I think that we have one more forerunner and then we are ready for this first run. And now we have the fourth and last forerunner on course, and soon ready to kickstart this first run. And the course setter here in the first run is Angel Carrello from Spain. And we will see if it's a tricky one. As I said, we had only 58 skiers making it down to the finish line in yesterday's first run. We will see how many of these 92 competitors that we have on start here today that will make it down to the finish line in today's first run. And now we can see that our first forerunner is crossing the finish line. Thank you so much for that beautiful run. And now we are ready for this first round. Only a few seconds away with bib number 1 at the start gate, Reto Schmiedinger from Switzerland. After him we have Eirik Hystad Solberg from Norway. And then with bib number 3, Fabian Ax-Svarts from Sweden. And the course is clear and we are ready to kickstart this first run here in Klaeppen, the Men's European Cup Slalom, the last race before the finals in Hafjell, the last race in Slalom before Hafjell. And now we have bib number 1, Reto Schmiedinger from Switzerland on course. And now we can see Reto Schmiedinger with bib number 1 passing the second intermediate here on 36.86. We will see how that time will, what that time will say later on. But Reto Schmiedinger crossing the finish line, and he does it on the time 49.02 here in the first run. 49.02 for Reto Schmiedinger in this first run. And we are ready for bib number 2, Eirik Hystad Solberg from Norway. He has started and is on course, and that means that we have Fabian Ax-Svarts from Sweden at the start gate. And Eirik Hystad Solberg, he has the green light at the first split with 45 hundredths of a second. It seems like he has a good start on this first run. Ended up in 4th place in yesterday's race, so I bet he's aiming for the podium here in today's race maybe. And he's improving here in the steep section, has the green light with 1 second and 15 hundredths of a second at the second split. Crossing the finish line here in the first run with the time 47.56, and he's our new leader with 1 second and 46 hundredths of a second. So 47.56 for Eirik Hystad Solberg, and he's our new leader. And we have now started Fabian Ax-Svarts from Sweden. who ended up in place number 3 in yesterday's race. And at the start gate we have Tanguy Neff from Switzerland, who ended up in 2nd place in yesterday's race. And entering the steep section here, we can see that Fabian Axwatch is a little bit behind, 1800ths of a second behind the current leader at the first split. We will see what the second intermediate says here. And he's now 6700ths of a second behind the leader at the second split. Maybe he can do a strong finish here in Klaeppen. And Fabian Axwatch crosses the finish line in place number 2 with his time 48.08. And he's 5200ths of a second behind Eirik Kystad Solberg from Norway. So the time 48.08 and 5200ths of a second behind in second place. We have now started Tanguy Neff from Switzerland, who were in 2nd place in yesterday's race. And at the start gate we have yesterday's winner Edvard Hallberg from Finland. And Tanguy Neff is entering the steep section here, 6500ths of a second behind at the first split. Then he has to speed up here in the last part of this course if he wants to be the new leader here after the first run. But 1 second behind at the second split. We will see what he can do here in the last gates. And Tanguy Neff crossing the finish line in place number 3 with his time 48.39, and he's 8300ths of a second behind our current leader. So 48.39 for Tanguy Neff in place number 3 so far, 8300ths of a second behind. And we have now started Edvard Hallberg from Finland, who won yesterday's race. And at the start gate we have the leader of the Slalom Cup, Theodor Brekken from Norway. And Edvard Hallberg is skiing exactly on the same time here as Eirik Kystad Solberg into the first split. We will see what the second split says after the steep section. The second split, then he is 2000ths of a second behind. It's a tight fight here between Edvard Hallberg and Eirik Kystad Solberg. And Edvard Hallberg crossing the finish line as the new leader with his time 47.42, and he's taking the lead with 1400ths of a second. So new leader here in the first run, Edvard Hallberg with his time 47.42. 1400ths of a second faster than Eirik Kystad Solberg, who is now in 2nd place. And we have now started bib number 6, Theodor Brekken from Norway. And at the start gate we have Mathias Etienne from Switzerland. Theodor Brekken, who is the Slalom Cup leader here, is now 3900ths of a second behind at the first split. Theodor Brekken, who made it up to 5th place in yesterday's race, is now 4100ths of a second behind Edvard Hallberg at the second split. And Theodor Brekken crosses the finish line in 3rd place with his time 47.95, and he's the 5300ths of a second behind the current leader in 3rd place. So 3rd place for Theodor Brekken with his time 47.95. And we have now started Mathias Etienne from Switzerland, and at the start gate we have his teammate Fadri Janutin, also from Switzerland. And Mathias Etienne is 2200ths of a second behind at the first split when he's entering the steep section here in the first run. And this steep section, many skiers had problem in this steep section in yesterday's race. We will see if they can handle it a little bit better here today. And Mathias Etienne is now 6900ths of a second behind at the second split. And Mathias Etienne crosses the finish line in 6th place with his time 48.46, and he's 1 second and 400ths of a second behind. So position number 6 so far for Mathias Etienne, and his time 48.46. Fadri Janutin from Switzerland has started, and at the start gate we have bib number 9, Noel von Gryningen, also from Switzerland. And Fadri Janutin is 82 hundredths of a second behind at the first split. We will see if he can improve here in the steep section of this course. And he's skiing pretty fast here in the middle section. Now he's only 62 hundredths of a second behind. We will see if he can keep up the speed all the way down to the finish line. And Fadri Janutin crosses the finish line in place number 6 with his time 48.46, and he's 1 second and 4 hundredths of a second behind the current leader. So position number 6 so far for Fadri Janutin, and the time 48.46 here in the first run. And we have started bib number 9, Noel von Gryningen from Switzerland, and at the start gate we have our second Swedish guy, Emil Pettersson. And Noel von Gryningen is starting his run pretty fast, only 17 hundredths of a second behind at the first split. We will see what he can do here in the middle section when he's skiing down towards the second intermediate. And now he's only 10 hundredths of a second behind. He's skiing fast here in the steep section. What can he do here in the bottom part? Noel von Gryningen crosses the finish line in 4th place with his time 48.02, 60 hundredths of a second behind the current leader Edward Hallberg from Finland. So 4th place so far for Noel von Gryningen, and the time 48.02 here in the first run. And on course right now we have our Swedish guy Emil Pettersson, and at the start gate we have bib number 11 Jesper Pojalainen from Finland. And Emil Pettersson has a good start on his run, only 11 hundredths of a second behind the current leader Edward Hallberg at the first split. Now he's getting closer to the second intermediate, and he's now 50 hundredths of a second behind. Lost some time here in the steep section, but still only 50 hundredths of a second behind. And Emil Pettersson crosses the finish line in place number 9 with his time 48.49, 1 second and 7 hundredths of a second behind the current leader in position number 9. So the time 48.49 for Emil Pettersson in this first run. And we have Jesper Pojalainen from Finland on the course. He's at the top section, and at the start gate we have Hans Gral Madsen from Norway. Jesper Pojalainen from Finland is 44 hundredths of a second behind at the first split, entering the steep section here in the first run. We will see if he can keep up the speed here in the steep part. And at the second intermediate, he's now 81 hundredths of a second behind, so he lost some time here in the steep section. We will see if he can do a strong finish here in the first run. Jesper Pojalainen crosses the finish line in place number 10, and he does that with the time 48.68, and he's 1 second and 26 hundredths of a second behind the current leader Edward Hallberg. So position number 10 for Jesper Pojalainen, and the time 48.68. We have now started bib number 12, Hans Gral Madsen from Norway, and at the start gate we have Corrado Barbera from Italy. And Hans Gral Madsen is 24 hundredths of a second behind at the first split. A pretty solid start here from the Norwegian skier. Now he's crossing the second intermediate, and he's 43 hundredths of a second behind. Lost some time here in the steep section, but with a strong finish it could be a pretty good position. And Hans Gral Madsen crosses the finish line in place number 6. He does it with the time 48.20, and he is 78 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So position number 6 for Hans Gral Madsen, and the time 48.20. Corrado Barbera from Italy has started. He's at the top section, and at the start gate we have Kilian Pramstaller from Austria. So our current leader so far here in the first run is yesterday's winner Edward Hallberg from Finland on the time 47.42. And in second place so far, we have Eirik Hystad Solberg from Norway, and in third place, Theodor Brecken, also from Norway. And right now we have Corrado Barbera from Italy on course, 50 hundredths of a second behind at the first split, and now 93 hundredths of a second behind at the second split. And Corrado Barbera crosses the finish line in place number 13. He does it with the time 49.13 and is 1 second and 71 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So position number 13 and the time 49.13 for Corrado Barbera from Italy. And we have now started Kilian Pramstaller from Austria, and at the start gate we have his teammate Simon Ryland, also from Austria. And Kilian Pramstaller is 36 hundredths of a second behind at the first split, when we now can see him skiing the steep section here of the first run. And at the second split, he's only 23 hundredths of a second behind, so it's a good steep section here from Kilian Pramstaller in the first run. And Kilian Pramstaller crosses the finish line in fourth place. He does it with a time 48.01, and he's 59 hundredths of a second behind the current leader Edvard Hallberg from Finland. But fourth place so far for Kilian Pramstaller, and the time 48.01. And we have started his teammate Simon Ryland from Austria, and at the start gate we have bib number 16, Halvor Hilde Gunnleiksrud from Norway. And Simon Ryland from Austria is 53 hundredths of a second behind at the first split, when he's entering this steep section right now. We will see what the second intermediate says here for Simon Ryland. Now he's 51 hundredths of a second behind, so he's been skiing pretty similar to Edvard Hallberg between the first and second split. And Simon Ryland crosses the finish line in place number 8. He does it with a time 48.38, and he is 96 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So position number 8 and the time 48.38 for Simon Ryland. And we have now started bib number 16, Halvor Hilde Gunnleiksrud from Norway. And that means that we have Juhei Koyama from Japan at the start gate. So Edvard Hallberg is still in the lead here in the first run so far, with his time 47.42. And Halvor Hilde Gunnleiksrud from Norway is 32 hundredths of a second behind at the first split here in the first run. And at the second intermediate, he is now 46 hundredths of a second behind. We will see what he can do here in the bottom part. Halvor Hilde Gunnleiksrud crosses the finish line in place number 7, and he does it with a time 48.17, 75 hundredths of a second behind the current leader. So position number 7 so far for Halvor Hilde Gunnleiksrud, and the time 48.17. We have now started Juhei Koyama from Japan. He's at the top section, and at the start gate we have Joachim Salarich from Spain. Oh, and unfortunately we can see that Juhei Koyama crashes right before the first intermediate. I hope that he's okay, but unfortunately a DNF here for Juhei Koyama in this first run here today and today's race as well. So DNF for Juhei Koyama, and we are now ready for our next skier, Joachim Salarich from Spain. He has now started his first run, and this first run is set by Angel Calero from Spain. So we will see if Joachim Salarich from Spain can do a good run here in this course. He's only 12 hundredths of a second behind at the first split, so it's a good start for Joachim Salarich. And at the start gate we have bib number 19, Jakob Greber from Austria. And at the second split he has lost some time. He's now 46 hundredths of a second behind. in place number 12. We will see what Joachim Salarich does here in the bottom part. Crosses the finish line and it does it in place number 9 with his time 48.29. And he's 87 hundredths of a second behind the leader in position number 9. So the time 48.29 for Joachim Salarich. And we have started bib number 19, Jakob Greber from Austria. And at the start gate we have Fabian Himmelsbach from Germany. And Jakob Greber entering the steep section here with 51 hundredths of a second behind at the first split. In place number 11. And then he got some trouble here in the middle section in this steep, tricky part, and it's a DNF for Jakob Greber from Austria, unfortunately. So DNF for Jakob Greber in today's race. And that means that we are getting ready for our next skier at the start, Fabian Himmelsbach from Germany. He's starting right now here in the first round, and that means that we have Nico Palamars from Germany at the start gate. So Fabian Himmelsbach on course right now. And Fabian Himmelsbach is 49 hundredths of a second behind at the first split. And our current leader here in the first round is Edward Hallberg from Finland, 47.42. In second place, Eirik Kystad Solberg, and in third place, Theodor Brecken. When we now can see that Fabian Himmelsbach is 1 second and 12 hundredths of a second behind at the second split. And Fabian crosses the finish line in place number 16 with his time 48.90, and he's 1 second and 48 hundredths of a second behind the leader. So position number 16 so far for Fabian Himmelsbach, and the time 48.90. And we have started another German skier, Nico Palamars, and at the start gate we have Tijan Marot from Slovenia. And Nico Palamars from Germany is 61 hundredths of a second behind at the first split, now skiing here in the steep section of the course. And at the second intermediate, he's now 1 second and 76 hundredths of a second behind in place number 12. And Nico Palamars crosses the finish line in place number 19. He does it with a time 49.63 and is 2 seconds and 21 hundredths of a second behind our current leaders. So place number 19 so far for Nico Palamars, and the time 49.63. We have now started bib number 22, Tijan Marot from Slovenia, and at the start gate we have Aingeru Garay from Spain. And it's a pretty solid start here from Tijan Marot, 31 hundredths of a second behind at the first split in place number 11. We will see if he can keep up the speed here even in the steep section. And at the second intermediate, he's now 1 second and 15 hundredths of a second behind instead, so lost some time here in the middle part. And Tijan Marot crosses the finish line in place number 16. He does it with a time 48.90 and is 1 second and 48 hundredths of a second behind Edward Hallberg, who is our current leader. So position number 16 so far for Tijan Marot, and the time 48.90. We have started Aingeru Garay from Spain, who is in the top section, and at the start gate we have Adam Hofstedt from Sweden. At the first split, we can see that Aingeru Garay is 46 hundredths of a second behind in place number 11. And at the second split, he's 82 hundredths of a second behind in place number 12. And Engarugaray crosses the finish line in place number 16. He does it with a time 48.74 and is 1 second and 32 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So position number 16 for Engarugaray and the time 48.74. We have started Adam Hofstedt from Sweden and Karlstad Slalom Club, and at the start gate we have Anton Tremmel from Germany. And Adam Hofstedt is 51 hundredths of a second behind at the first split, now entering this steep section here of the first run. And the second intermediate says that he's 95 hundredths of a second behind in place number 12. With a strong finish, maybe he can be top 10, but it will be tough. And Adam Hofstedt crosses the finish line in place number 15. He does it with the time 48.54 and place number 15, 1 second and 12 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So the time 48.54 for Adam Hofstedt. We have now started bib number 25, Anton Tremmel from Germany, and at the start gate we have another Swedish skier, Axel Lindqvist. Anton Tremmel is 45 hundredths of a second behind at the first intermediate in position number 11. We will see how he handled this steep section and what the second intermediate says here for Anton Tremmel. It says 98 hundredths of a second behind. And Anton Tremmel crosses the finish line in the first run, and he does it in place number 21 with his time 49.04, and he's 1 second and 62 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So position 21 for Anton Tremmel and the time 49.04. We have now started Axel Lindqvist from Sweden and Sundsvall's Slalom Club, and at the start gate we have Hugo Descripes from France. And it's a pretty solid start here for Axel Lundqvist. 28 hundredths of a second behind at the first split. We will see if he can keep up the speed even here in the steep section. What will the second intermediate say about Axel Lindqvist's run? 79 hundredths of a second behind now in position number 12. And Axel Lindqvist crosses the finish line. He does it in position number 18 and his time 48.90, and he's 1 second and 48 hundredths of a second behind the leader. So position number 18 for Axel Lindqvist and the time 48.90 here in the first run. We have now started Hugo Descripes from France. He's on course at the top section, and at the start gate we have Matteo Bendotti from Italy. Oh, and he lost his skis. Hugo Descripes lost his ski here entering this steep section. And yeah, it's really hard to ski without one ski here in the slope. So unfortunately a DNF here for Hugo Descripes from France in the first run and today's race. Unlucky to lost his ski here in the first run. So, our current leader here in the first run is Edvard Hallberg from Finland on the time 47.42. In second place, Eirik Hystad Solberg from Norway. In third place, Theodor Brecken, also from Norway. In fourth place, Kilian Pramstaller from Austria. And in fifth place, Noel von Grüningen from Switzerland. And we have started the race again. It's Matteo Bendotti from Italy who is now in the course. We can see him here at the top section, and at the start gate we have another Swedish skier, Gustav Wisting. And Matteo Bendotti is 67 hundredths of a second behind at the first split, now entering this steep section. And Matteo Bendotti passing the second intermediate, 1 second and 1500ths of a second behind. In place number 12. And Matteo Bendotti crosses the finish line in place number 23. He does it on the time 49.11, and he's 1 second and 6900ths of a second behind our current leader. So position number 23 for Matteo Bendotti, and the time 49.11. And we have now started Gustav Wisting from Sweden and Lycksele IF. He's skiing at the top section, and at the start gate we have Moritz Sudrell from Austria. And Gustav Wisting is 4500ths of a second behind at the first split. We can see him here skiing in the steep section down towards the second intermediate, and we will see what the time says for Gustav Wisting. Now 1 second and 7200ths of a second behind in place number 12. And Gustav Wisting is crossing the finish line in place number 26. He does it with the time 49.91, and he is 2 seconds and 4900ths of a second behind our current leader. So the time 49.91 for Gustav Wisting, and place number 26 so far here in the first run. We have now started bib number 30, Moritz Surdell from Austria, and at the start gate we have Filip Lundqvist from Sweden. And Moritz Surdell entering the steep section, 5900ths of a second behind the current leader. And the second intermediate says that he is 7400ths of a second behind, so he lost some time, but not that much. We will see what he can do here in the bottom section. And Moritz Surdell crosses the finish line. He does it in position number 15, and his time 48.53, 1 second and 1100ths of a second behind the current leader. So position number 15 so far for Moritz Surdell, and the time 48.53. We have now started Filip Lundqvist from Sweden and Saltsjöbaden Slalom Club, and at the start gate we have Ishaya Nelson from the United States of America. And Filip Lundqvist is 7100ths of a second behind at the first intermediate. We will see what the second one says about his run. 1 second and 6100ths of a second behind at the second intermediate. Filip Lundqvist crossing the finish line in place number 26 with his time 49.39, and he's 1 second and 9700ths of a second behind our current leader. So position number 26 for Filip Lundqvist, and the time 49.39. We have now started Ishaya Nelson from the United States of America, 6600ths of a second behind at the first intermediate, and at the start gate we have Sean Del Campo from Spain, getting ready for his first run here in the men's European Cup Slalom here in Klaeppen. 1 second and 5500ths of a second behind for Ishaya Nelson at the second split. And Ishaya Nelson crosses the finish line in place number 27. He does it with a time 49.51, and is 2 seconds and 900ths of a second behind the leader. So position number 27 for Ishaya Nelson, and the time 49.51. Entering the steep section is Sean Del Campo from Spain. He's 3000ths of a second behind at the first split, so a pretty good start here from the skier from Spain. And at the start gate we have Luke Winters from the United States of America. And at the second split, Sean Del Campo is 8900ths of a second behind. And Sean Del Campo crosses the finish line in place number 17. He does it on the time 48.56, 1 second and 1400ths of a second behind our current leader. So position number 17 for Sean Del Campo, and the time 48.56. We can now see that Luke Winters from the United States of America is entering the steep section here. Some trouble though for the American skier, but he's hanging on, still on course, on his way down towards the second intermediate. And at the start gate we have Sandro Simonet from Switzerland. Luke Winters getting closer to the finish line here in the first run, crossing the finish line in place number 31 with his time 49.93 here in the first run. So the time 49.93 for Luke Winters and the position number 31 so far here in the first run. We have now started Sandro Simonet from Switzerland. He's entering the steep section right now and is 28 hundredths of a second behind at the first intermediate. And at the start gate we have Jimmy Krupka from the United States of America. And Sandro Simonet is 87 hundredths of a second behind at the second intermediate. And Sandro Simonet crosses the finish line in place number 18. He does it on the time 48.62, 1 second and 20 seconds of hundredths of a second behind our current leader Edvard Hallberg from Finland. So position number 18 for Sandro Simonet and the time 48.62. Entering the steep section is Jimmy Krupka from the United States of America, 77 hundredths of a second behind at the first split. And at the start gate we have bib number 37, Linus Witte from Germany. And the second split says that Jimmy Krupka is 1 second and 31 hundredths of a second behind. We will see what he can do here in the last gates before the finish line. Jimmy Krupka crosses the finish line in place number 28. He does it on the time 49.33, 1 second and 91 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So position number 28 and the time 49.33 for Jimmy Krupka. Linus Witte got some trouble here entering the steep section, and it's unfortunately a DNF for the German skier with bib number 37. So a DNF for Linus Witte from Germany, and we are getting ready for our next skier, Simon Marberger from Italy. He has now started, and that means that we have Lenz Hechler from Switzerland at the start gate. Simon Marberger also got some trouble entering the steep section here in the first run. I don't really know what happened, but unfortunately it's a DNF for Simon Marberger with bib number 38 here in the first run and today's race. That means that we are getting ready for our next skier, Lenz Hechler from Switzerland. He has started now and is on his way down towards the finish line here in the first run. And at the start gate we have Mikkel Ramsøy from Norway getting ready for the first run. At the first split, Lenz Hechler is 61 hundredths of a second behind, but just as I said that he got some trouble, maybe it was a straddle, I didn't really see, but some kind of trouble here in the steep section for Lenz Hechler from Switzerland, and it's a DNF. That means that we have our next skier on course, Mikkel Ramsøy from Norway, and at the start gate we have Simon Fournier from Canada. It's a pretty solid start from Mikkel Ramsøy, 31 hundredths of a second behind at the first intermediate. We will see if he can keep up the speed even in the steep section. Some trouble there, but he's hanging on down towards the second split. And now he's 74 hundredths of a second behind. We will see if he can keep up the speed all the way down to the finish line. And Mikkel Ramsøy crosses the finish line in place number 19. He does it with a time 48.67, 1 second and 25 hundredths of a second behind our current leader Edvard Hallberg from Finland. So position number 19 for Mikkel Ramsøy and the time 48.67. We have now started Simon Fournier from Canada. We can see him entering the steep section, 54 hundredths of a second behind our current leader at the first split. And at the start gate we have Joel Lytolf from Switzerland. At the second intermediate, Simon Fournier is 1 second and 31 hundredths of a second behind. We will see what he does here in the last section of the course. Simon Fournier crosses the finish line. He does it on the time 49.29 and place number 29. 1 second and 87 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So the time 49.29 for Simon Fournier and position number 29. Entering the steep section right now, we see Simon Lütolf from Switzerland. 86 hundredths of a second behind at the first split. We will see what the second split says about his run here in the men's slalom European Cup first run. 1 second and 74 hundredths of a second behind at the second split for Joel Lütolf from Switzerland. And Joel Lütolf crosses the finish line in place number 33. He does it on the time 49.50 and 2 seconds and 16 hundredths of a second behind the current leader. So place number 33 and the time 49.58. We have now started William Hansson from Sweden, but unfortunately a crash here from William Hansson. He lost his ski here at the top section. Hopefully he's fine, but unfortunately a lost ski for William Hansson from Sweden and a DNF here in today's race. That means that we soon will have Tommaso Siccardi from Italy on course. He's at the start gate getting ready for his first run. Now the course is clear and ready for our next skier, Tommaso Siccardi from Italy. And now we have bib number 44, Tommaso Siccardi from Italy on course, and Justin Alkire from Canada is at the start gate. And our top 5 skiers so far here in the first run. In first place, Edvard Hallberg from Finland. In second place, Eirik Hystad Solberg from Norway. In third place, Theodor Brecken, also from Norway. In fourth place, Kilian Pramstaller from Austria. And in fifth place, Noel von Grüningen from Switzerland. And right now we have Tommaso Siccardi from Italy on course. He is 70 hundredths of a second behind at the first split. Now on his way down towards the second intermediate. He's 1 second and 42 hundredths of a second behind. We will see what he can do here in the bottom section of the first run. And Tommaso Siccardi crosses the finish line in place number 30. He does it on the time 49.31 and is 1 second and 89 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So it's a tight race here today, not even 2 seconds between the top 30 skiers right now. And we can unfortunately see that Justin Alkire from Canada got some trouble here in the top section of the course, and it's a DNF for Justin Alkire from Canada. That means that we now have Hans Vachari from Italy on course, and at the start gate we have Adrian Meissen from Germany. Entering the steep section, Hans Vachari from Italy is 60 hundredths of a second behind. And the second intermediate says that he's 1 second and 39 hundredths of a second behind so far here in his first run. And Hans Vachari crosses the finish line in place number 29. He does it on the time 49.22 and is 1 second and 80 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So the time 49.22 and position number 29 for Hans Vachari from Italy. We have started Adrian Meissen from Germany, and at the start gate we have Piotr Habdas from Poland. And at the second intermediate, Adrian Meissen is 1 second and 35 hundredths of a second behind And when he crosses the finish line, he does it in place number 27, and the time 49.10 for Adrian Meisen, 1 second and 68 hundredths of a second behind. So position number 27 for Adrian Meisen, and the time 49.10. Entering the steep section, Matteo Caninis from Italy is 38 hundredths of a second behind. Now at the second intermediate, he's 1 second and 14 hundredths of a second behind. At the start gate, we have our next. Further up, we have Piotr Habdas from Poland, but Matteo Caninis crosses the finish line, and he does it on the time 49.41 and place number 35, 1 second and 99 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So position number 35 for Matteo Caninis, and the time 49.41. Unfortunately, a DNF here for bib number 49, Piotr Habdas from Poland. So some trouble here for him in the first run, and it's a DNF in today's race. That means that we have our next skier on course, bib number 50, Reto Mächler from Switzerland, and at the start gate we have Flavio Vitale from France. And Reto Mächler entering the steep section, 51 hundredths of a second behind at the first split. And now we have also started Flavio Vitale from France, and Takayaki Koyama from Japan is at the start gate. But Reto Mächler, he's getting closer to the finish line, and he crosses the finish line in place number 22. He does it on the time 48.75 and is 1 second and 33 hundredths of a second behind in place number 22. It's a really tight first run here in Klaeppen today. And unfortunately, we have another DNF. It's Flavio Vitale from France that got some trouble here in the first run, and it's a DNF for him. That means that we have Takayuki Koyama from Japan on course, and at the start gate we have Baptiste Sambuis from France. Entering the steep section, Takayaki Koyama is 1 second and 4 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. And the second intermediate says that he's 1 second and 75 hundredths of a second behind instead. Takayaki Koyama crosses the finish line in place number 40. He does it on the time 49.66, 2 seconds and 24 hundredths of a second behind. So position number 40 and the time 49.66 for Takayuki Koyama from Japan. On course here in the steep section we can see Baptiste Sambuis from France, 65 hundredths of a second behind at the first split, and we have also started Fabio Valls from Austria further up in the course, and at the start gate we have Adam Palmer from Sweden, but Baptiste Sambuis is getting closer to the finish line here in the first run, and Baptiste Sambuis crosses the finish line in place number 32, and his time 49.24, 1 second and 82 hundredths of a second behind. So position number 32 for Baptiste Sambuis, and the time 49.24. Here in the bottom section we can see Fabio Walch from Austria, and further up we have also started Adam Palmer, and Marius Senhofer from Germany is at the start. And Fabio Walch crosses the finish line in the first run. He does it in place number 39, and the time 49.53. So the time 49.53 for Fabio Walch, and the position number 39 so far. Here in the bottom section we can see Adam Palmer from Sweden and Örebro SLF. Further up we have also started Marius Senhofer from Germany, and at the start gate we have Christoph Meisel from Austria. Adam Palmer crosses the finish line in the first run. He does it in position number 45, and the time 50.03. So the time 50.03 for Adam Palmer in the first run, and position number 45. Here in the steep section, we can see Magnus Senhofer from Germany, and further up, at the start gate, we have Christoph Meisel from Austria. Magnus Senhofer from Germany crosses the finish line here in the first run. He does it in 'So the time for Magnus Senhofer 50.10 and position number 46, 2 seconds and 68 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So the time 50.10 for Magnus Senhofer and position number 46. Entering the steep section here, we have Christoph Meisel from Austria, and at the start gate we have Jesper Wahlqvist from Norway. And it's a really tight race here in this first run. The time to be top 30 right now is 49.13. Only 78 hundredths of a second behind to be top 30 right now. And Christoph Meisel crosses the finish line in place number 38. He does it with the time 49.42. So 49.42 for Christoph Meisel and the position number 38 so far. Here in the middle section we can see Jesper Wahlqvist from Norway, and further up we have also started Michael Brügger from Switzerland, and at the start gate we have Filip Jonsson from Sweden. And Jesper Wahlqvist from Norway crosses the finish line. He does it in position number 28. He makes it top 30 when he crosses the finish line with his time 49.05, 1 second and 63 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So position number 28 so far for Jesper Wahlqvist and the time 49.05. Michael Brügger from Switzerland is the skier closest to the finish line, but we have also started Filip Jonsson from Sweden. Mattias Höjby from Norway is at the start gate. And Michael Brügger crosses the finish line in position number 45. He does it with the time 49.84 and the position number 45 for Michael Brügger so far, the time 49.84. Here in the steep section we have Filip Jonsson from Sweden, and further up we have also started Mattias Höjby from Norway, and at the start gate we have another Swedish guy, Alpine Larsson. And unfortunately some trouble here in the last section of the course for Filip Jonsson. So unfortunately a DNF here for Filip Jonsson in today's race. That means that the next skier we will see here skiing down towards the finish line is Mattias Höjby from Norway. And further up we have also started Albin Larsson from Sweden. Peder Lunder from Norway is at the start gate. Mattias Höjby from Norway crosses the finish line in place number 45. He does it with the time 49.70, 2 seconds and 28 hundredths of a second behind. So position number 45 for Mattias Höjby and the time 49.70. In this middle section we see Albin Larsson from Sweden and Salens EF. And further up we have also started Peder Lunder from Norway, and at the start gate we have Axel Esteve from Andorra. Albin Larsson crosses the finish line in place number 51. He does it with the time 50.61 and position number 51. So position number 51 for Albin Larsson and the time 50.61 here in the first run. In the middle section we have Peder Lunder from Norway. Further up we have also started Axel Esteve from Andorra. And at the start gate we have George Steffe from the United States of America. Peder Lunder crosses the finish line. He does it in position number 50. And also the time 50.10. So the time 50.10 here in the first round for Peder Lunder and position number 50 so far. Here in the middle part of the slope, we have Axel Esteve from Andorra. Further up, we have George Steffe from the United States of America. And at the start gate, we have Ralf Siedler from Austria. And Axel Esteve crosses the finish line in position number 52. He does it on the time 50:39. So position number 52 for Axel Esteve and the time 50:39. Here in the bottom section of this steep part, we have George Steffe from the United States of America. Further up, we have also started Ralf Siedler from Austria, and at the start gate, we have his teammate Lukas Gasser. But George Steffe crosses the finish line in position number 52. He does it with the time 50:35. So time 50:35 for George Steffe here in the first run, and position number 52 so far. Entering the steep section does Ralf Siedler from Austria, and at the start gate we have his teammate Lukas Gasser, also from Austria. And to be top 30 right now, you can't be more than 1 second and 69 hundredths of a second behind our current leader, so it's a really tight first run here in the Men's European Cup Slalom. And Ralf Siedler from Austria crosses the finish line in place number 54. He does it on the time 50:59. So the time 50:59 for Ralf Siedler in the first run, and the time and position number 54. Here in the middle section we see Lukas Gasser from Austria, and at the start gate we have Alessandro Piosio from Italy. And Alessandro Piosio has started now as well. That means that we have his teammate Stefano Pisato from Italy at the start gate. But Lukas Gasser crosses the finish line. He does it in position number 47. And the time 49:88 here in the first run, 2 seconds and 49 hundredths of a second behind. So position number 47 for Lukas Gasser. Alessandro Piossi from Italy is the skier we can see here in the steep section. Some trouble here, but he's hanging on. And further up we have his teammate Stefano Pisato. And at the start gate we have Bosse Mikkelsson from Sweden. Alessandro Piosio crosses the finish line. He does it with the time 50:60 and position number 56 so far for Alessandro. So position number 56 and the time 50:60 here in the first run. In the middle section we have Stefano Pisato from Italy, and further up we have Bosse Mikkelsson from Sweden. At the start gate we see Oskar Heiner from Austria. Stefano Pisato crosses the finish line in position number 43. He does it on the time 49:60 and is 2 seconds and 18 hundredths of a second behind our current leader. So position number 43 and the time 49:60 for Stefano Pisato from Italy. Bosse Mikkelsson is the skier we can see here from the finish area. At the start gate we have Oskar Heiner from Austria. And Bosse Mikkelsson from Östersund för Slalom Club crosses the finish line in position number 59 and his time 50:91. So the time 50:91 here in the first round for Bosse Mikkelsson in position number 59. We have now started our next skier, Oskar Heine from Austria, and at the start gate we have Lukas Kungsholm from Sweden. So right now we have the time 1 second and 69 hundredths of a second to be top 30. So it's really tight here between the top 30 skiers, and we will see if someone can make it top 30 here of the remaining skiers. Oskar Heine from Austria is the skier closest to the finish area, and Lukas Kungsholm from Sweden is further up in the course. Diego Origioni from France at the start. And Oscar Heine crosses the finish line in position number 56. He does it with a time 50:43 here in the first run. So position number 56 for Oscar Heine and the time 50:43. And we can see some trouble here for Lukas Kungsholm from Sweden in the steep section. Unfortunately, a DNF here for him in the first run in today's race. That means that Diego Origioni from France is the skier that we will see ski here in the steep section, entering the steep section right now, and Nikolaus Feodler from Germany is at the start gate. And to be top 60 and make it to the second run right now, you can't be more than 3 seconds and 49 hundredths of a second behind. So not more than 3 seconds and 49 hundredths of a second behind to make it top 60 and to be a part of the second run right now. Unfortunately, DNF for Diego Origioni from France here in the first run. And that means that we soon will move on with bib number 74, Nikolaus Feodrel from Germany. He has now started his first run here in the men's European Cup Slalom in Klaeppen. And at the start gate we have Theo Lopez from France. And Theo Lopez at the start gate has bib number 75, and we have a total number of 92 competitors here today from 16 different nations. And now we can see Nikolaus Feodel from Germany entering the steep section here in the first run. Nikolaus Feodel crosses the finish line in position number 48. He does it with the time 49:85. So position number 48 for Nikolaus Feodel from Germany and the time 49:85 here in the first run. Here in the steep section we have Theo Lopez from France, and further up we have also started his teammate Sacha Demir Chambé, also from France, and Mario Gramshammer from Austria is at the start gate. Theo Lopez from France crosses the finish line in position number 56. He does it with the time 50:36 here in the first run. So position number 56 for Theo Lopez so far, and the time 50:36. Sacha Demir Chambet from France has started, and we see him here in the middle section. We have also started Mario Gramshammer from Austria further up in the course, and Edoardo Saraccio from Italy is at the start gate. And Sacha Demir Chambet crosses the finish line in place number 62. He does it with the time 50:64 here in the first run. So position number 62 and the time 50:64 for Sacha Demir Chambet here from France. Unfortunately, a DNF for bib number 77, Mario Gramshammer from Austria. And we will soon see Edoardo Saraccio from Italy entering the steep section here in the first run. Now we can see him here from the finish area, and that means that we have Augustin Bianchini from France at the start gate. Oh, some trouble here in the steep section for Edoardo Saraccio. But he hanged on, but then it got too much, and it's a DNF for Edoardo Saraccio from Italy, unfortunately. So a DNF for bib number 78 is Edoardo Saraccio from Italy, and that means that we will see Augustin Bianchini from France entering the steep section right now. We can see him from the finish area, and at the start gate we have his teammate Theo Letetre from France. And now Theo Litetre from France has started as well, and that means that we have Emil Nyberg from Sweden at the start gate, but Augustin Bianchini from France is crossing the finish line here in the first run in place number 55. He does it with the time 50:19. So the time 50:19 for Augustin Bianchini in place number 55. We have Theo Letitre from France on course on his way down towards the finish line, but just as I said that, he got some trouble here in the bottom section, and it's an DNF for Theo Letitre from France, unfortunately. At the start gate we have Emil Nyberg from Sweden and Sundsvall's Slalom Club. He will soon start his first run here today. And to be top 60 right now and make it to the second run, you can't be more than 3 seconds and 1700ths of a second behind our current leader. So you have to beat the time 50:59 here in the first run to be top 60. To be top 30, you have to beat the time 49:11 and can't be more than 1 second and 6900ths of a second behind. That's to be top 30 after the first run and to have a good bib in the second run. We have now started the race again, and it's Emil Nyberg from Sweden and Sundsvall Slalom Club we have on the top part of the course, and at the start gate we have Thomas Barata from Spain. Now we can see Emil Nyberg entering the steep section here in the first run. Oh, and unfortunately it looks like a straddle here in the steep section for Emil Nyberg. So it's a DNF here for Emil Nyberg from Sweden in the first run and today's race here in Klaeppen. That means that it is Thomas Barata from Spain that will enter the steep section here really soon. And at the start gate we have Filip Aronsson Elfman from Sweden. And now we can see Thomas Barata from Spain here in the steep section. We will see if he can make it all the way down to the finish line here in the first run and to beat the time 50:59 and be top 60 and a part of the second run. And now we have also started Filip Aronsson Elfman, who is further up in the course, and at the start gate we have Anthony Assolin from France at the start. But Tommaso Barata crosses the finish line in position number 65. He does it with a time 51:18. So position number 65 for Thomas Barata and the time 51:18. Filip Aronsson Elfman is the skier we can see here in the steep section, and further up we have also started Anthony Assolini from France. At the start gate we have Fabio Alasina from Italy. Filip Aronsson Elfman crosses the finish line in place number 66. He does it on the time 51:26 here in the first run. So place number 66 for Filip Aronsson Elfman and the time 51:26. Here in the middle section we can see Anthony Assolini from France. Further up we have also started Fabio Alasina from Italy, and at the start gate we have Tinus Augesen from Norway. And Anthony Alosini from France crosses the finish line in position number 52. He does it with the time 49:94. So the time 49:94 and position number 52 for Anthony Alosini from France. And here in the middle section we can see Fabio Alasina from Italy. Further up we have Tinus Augesen from Norway, and at the start gate we have Erik Saravo from Finland. And Fabio Alasina from Italy crosses the finish line in place number 68 and the time 51:43. So position number 68 for Fabio Alasina and the time 51:43 here in the first run. Here in the middle part of the slope we see Tinus Augesen from Norway. Further up we have also started Erik Saravo from Finland, and at the start gate we have Eirik Schau Giskås from Norway. And Tinius Ågesen crosses the finish line in place number 65 here in the first run with his time 50.87. So the time 50.87 for Tinius Ågesen in place number 65. Here in the steep section we see Erik Sarvo from Finland. And further up in the course we have also started Erik Schau Giskos from Norway. And at the start gate we have Ryoma Katayama from Japan. And Erik Saravo crosses the finish line in position number 67. He does it with the time 51.04 here in the first run. So position number 67 for Erik Saravo and the time 51.04. We have a DNF here on bib 88, Erik Schau Giskos from Norway. So unfortunately no second run here for Erik Schau Giskos from Norway. Entering the steep section we see Ryoma Katayama from Japan, and at the start gate we have Andreas Söndersrud Amdal from Norway. And now he has started his first run as well. That means that we have Xavier Cornella Gitart from Andorra at the start gate. And Ryoma Katayama crosses the finish line in place number 68 with his time 51.15 here in the first run. So the time 51.15 and place number 68 so far here for Ryoma Katayama from Japan. And another DNF, unfortunately, here in the bottom section for Andreas Söndersrud Amdal from Norway with bib number 19. That means that we soon will see Xavier Cornella Gutierrez from Andorra entering the steep section, and at the start gate we have our last skier here in the first run, Cormac Camerford from Ireland. And now we can see Xavier entering the steep section here in the first run. We will see if Xavier Cornella Gutierrez can make it top 60 and make it to the second run. Then he has to beat the time 50.43. And we have also started Cormac Camerford from the Ireland. Our last skier is further up on the course. And Xavier Cornella Gitart crosses the finish line in place number 72. He does it on the time 51.59. So the time 51.59 here for Xavier, and the position of 72 so far. And unfortunately we got the DNF on our last skier here in the first round, Cormac Camerford from the Ireland. So unfortunately DNF for Cormac Camerford and no second run for him. And that means that we are done with the first run here in the men's European Cup Slalom in Klaeppen. The fastest skier here in the first run were Edvard Hallberg from Finland. In second place, 14 hundredths of a second behind, we have Eirik Hystad Solberg from Norway. In third place, 53 hundredths of a second behind, Theodor Brecken from Norway. In fourth place, Kilian Pramstaller from Austria. In fifth place, Noel von Grüningen from Switzerland. In place number 6, Fabian Ax Schwarz from Sweden. In place number 7, Halvor Hilde Gunnleiksrud from Norway. In place number 8, Hans Gral Madsen from Norway. In place number 9, Joachim Salarich from Spain. And in place number 10, Simon Ryland from Austria. That's our top 10 skier here from the first run in the men's European Cup Slalom here in Klaeppen. And at 11:30 we are back with the second run.